She boarded the wrong train to escape a marriage full of fear and silence. But the stranger who sat beside her didn't just listen. He helped her rediscover the courage to rewrite her life completely. The train station buzzed with commuters. Fast feet, tired eyes, coffee cups clutched in shaking hands. But for Emily Ross, 33, everything moved in slow motion. She clutched a duffel bag with trembling fingers, her breath fogging in the cold morning air. Her heart pounded as if her body knew something her brain was too scared to say out loud. She had finally left him. No dramatic goodbye, no screaming match, just a scribbled note on the kitchen counter and a train ticket bought in cash. She didn't even check which platform, she just boarded. Inside the train car, she collapsed into the first empty seat she saw. The weight of it all sank into her bones. The bruises she didn't explain, the friends she stopped calling, the woman she stopped recognizing in the mirror. She wasn't running to something. She was just running. And she had no idea where this train would take her. As the whistle blew and the train jerked forward, Emily finally let her shoulders sag. Then she heard a soft voice beside her. "First time running away?" Startled, she turned to see the man seated next to her. Daniel Carter, 36, plain gray hoodie, book in hand, kind eyes with tired circles underneath them, like someone who also knew what it meant to be worn down. Emily stiffened. Years of silence had taught her to keep conversations short, especially with strange men. "Something like that," she replied quietly. He didn't press, just offered a soft smile and went back to his book. But when the train rolled past her intended stop 20 minutes later, Emily's chest tightened. "Wait, where are we going?" Daniel looked up, puzzled. "This train? It's the Regional Express to Fairmont." She blinked, panic rising. No, I was supposed to get off at Rose Hill." Daniel closed his book. "You must have boarded the wrong line." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. She hadn't escaped. She'd gotten lost. Daniel studied her for a moment, then quietly said, "You're safe, you know. Whatever you're running from, it can't find you here." And somehow those words, from a stranger she'd known 5 minutes, felt more honest than anything her husband had ever said in 10 years. The train hummed beneath them. The world blurred outside the windows. And Emily, for the first time in years, let herself exhale. She didn't know where this ride would end. But maybe, just maybe, the man beside her wasn't just a fellow passenger. He was the beginning of something she never thought she'd feel again. Hope. The train carved its way through open fields and quiet towns as silence fell between Emily and Daniel. Not the uncomfortable kind, something gentler, like the quiet after a storm. Emily stared out the window, thoughts spiraling. She had no ID, no plan, no idea what to do in Fairmont, a place she'd never even heard of. And yet, she didn't feel panicked anymore. Daniel glanced sideways, then spoke softly. "You don't have to tell me why you left. But if you want to talk, I'll listen." Emily's hands tightened in her lap. She had told no one the full truth. Not her sister, not her co-workers, certainly not her neighbors who always said, "Your husband seems like such a gentleman." But now, next to a stranger with no stake in her life, she found herself whispering, "He never hit my face, just places no one could see, said it was my fault, that I made him angry." Daniel didn't flinch. He nodded, quietly absorbing every word like it mattered. She continued, her voice steadier. "I tried to leave once before. Ended up in the ER 2 days later. This time, I didn't tell anyone, not even my sister. I thought if I just got out..." Her voice cracked, but Daniel didn't interrupt. I thought if I kept moving, I'd stop being afraid. Daniel spoke only when she had nothing left to say. Fear doesn't end when you run, but it gets quieter when someone runs with you. She looked at him, really looked. There was something familiar in his eyes, not in appearance, but in energy, like someone who'd also carried invisible bruises. You speak like someone who's run too, she said. He nodded. My father, years ago. Took me a long time to realize leaving wasn't weakness, it was survival. For the first time, Emily didn't feel like the broken one in the room. She felt understood. As the train neared Fairmont, Daniel turned to her again. I have a cabin upstate. Quiet place. Was headed there to reset. No pressure, but you need somewhere to land. There's space. Emily hesitated. Every warning bell conditioned into her screamed not to trust. But her gut? It didn't feel danger. It felt something unfamiliar. Peace. I don't want to be rescued, she said carefully. Daniel smiled gently. Good, I don't rescue. I walk beside people until they remember they can rescue themselves. The train slowed. Emily stood, heart pounding again. But this time, not from fear. From a sense of freedom. And as the doors slid open to a town she hadn't meant to find, beside a man she never meant to meet, Emily took a step not just off the train, but toward the life she'd nearly convinced herself she didn't deserve. Fairmont was quiet. One long street of shuttered shops, a diner with flickering neon, and woods that wrapped the town like a thick wool blanket. Emily stood on the platform, her bag slung over one shoulder, Daniel beside her. He didn't rush her. He didn't ask what she planned next. He simply waited. When she finally nodded, he led her down a side road to an old truck. The drive up to his cabin took 20 minutes, mostly in silence broken only by the wind in the trees. The cabin wasn't grand. It was worn around the edges, 2 stories of wood and stone, surrounded by trees that swayed like they were whispering secrets. But it was warm. It was safe. It was hers, if only for now. Inside, Daniel showed her the guest room, fresh towels, the old kettle on the stove. There's no cell signal up here, just so you know. Emily exhaled in relief. Good. Over the next few days, a routine formed. They cooked breakfast in silence, ate on the porch. Emily read old paperbacks from his shelf. Daniel chopped wood. She swept floors. He repaired the creaky back door. No questions, no judgment, no pretending. One evening, rain tapped gently at the windows as they shared tea by the fireplace. Emily finally asked the question that had lingered since day one. Why did you help me? You didn't even know me. Daniel didn't look away. Because I saw someone who didn't need saving. She just needed a chance to breathe. And because once, someone did the same for me. Emily turned the mug in her hands. You know I'm still scared. Like, he'll find me. Or worse, I'll go back. Because it's what I know. Daniel leaned forward. You left. That means the strongest part of you already won. The next morning, Emily woke before the sun. For the first time in years, she had slept through the night. No nightmares, no pacing, no dread. She walked outside barefoot, letting the dew chill her toes, watching the sky slowly turn to fire. She wasn't healed, but she wasn't broken anymore either. Later, she found a note on the kitchen table, Daniel's handwriting. Gone into town to grab supplies. Back soon. Take whatever you need. This place is yours too now. She stared at the note for a long time, and for the first time in over a decade, she felt something bloom quietly in her chest. Belonging. But peace is never simple. Because the past doesn't always knock. It barges in, and before Emily could fully build a new life, she would have to face the very thing she ran from. And choose. This time for real. Whether she'd keep running or finally fight back. It started with a voicemail, left on a landline Daniel rarely used, a voice she hadn't heard in days, but one she'd never stopped fearing. Him. Her husband. "I know where you are, Emily. You think I can't find you? You think you can hide forever?" Her hands went cold. Her breath hitched. Her world, the one she had slowly rebuilt, brick by fragile brick, trembled. She sat on the floor, shaking, until Daniel came home. One look at her pale face, and he knew. She played him the message, staring at the floor as it ended. "He'll come here," she whispered. "He always finds me." Daniel didn't tell her she was safe. He didn't make promises he couldn't keep. Instead, he said, "You don't have to hide anymore. Not from him, not from anyone." Together, they made a plan. Daniel called a lawyer, a friend who specialized in restraining orders and abuse recovery. He called local law enforcement. He made sure Emily had documentation, witnesses, and support. But most of all, he reminded her that the fight was hers to lead. And she was ready. A week later, when her husband showed up outside the Fairmont Sheriff's Station, smug and snarling, he wasn't met with fear. He was met by Emily, standing tall beside two officers, documents in hand. "You don't own me anymore," she said calmly, "and you never will again." He was arrested for prior assault charges. The evidence, long buried in fear and silence, finally saw light. The trial that followed was short. Emily spoke only once, but her voice shook the courtroom. "You didn't just hurt me. You made me believe I was powerless, but I wasn't, and I'm not." Afterward, Emily didn't go back to her old life. She didn't need to. She built a new one, in Fairmont. She started a women's support group in town, volunteered at the community center, taught self-defense classes. She wasn't running anymore. She was leading. As for Daniel, he stayed. Not as a savior, not as a shadow, but as a partner, a friend, a quiet strength at her side. One morning on the porch, coffee in hand, he asked softly, "Do you ever regret getting on the wrong train?" She looked at him, smiling as the sun lit the trees. "Number, it wasn't the wrong train. It just didn't take me where I expected." Today, a small plaque hangs in the Fairmont Community Hall. It reads, "To the woman who thought she was lost and found herself stronger than ever." Because Emily Ross didn't just escape the life that caged her. She built the one that set her free. And it all started with a stranger on the wrong train.